Hello! Today we kick off our 2014-15 Beat season, brought to you by the Living Music Resource in historic Oxford, Mississippi at the University of Mississippi. We are on a mission to bridge the traditions of the musical past with the resources of the 21st century. We give you the opportunity to interact with musical experts in real time. LMR is making Oxford the portal for this innovative, interactive musical experience. Welcome! Hello, I am Nancy Mariah Balach, and I am the creator, editor, and host for the Living Music Resource. I am also an associate professor here at the University of Mississippi. I hope you are ready to participate. We want to hear from you. We want you to comment. We want you to ask questions. What do you want to know? We are on a music research revolution. Yes, we are. So how do I make comments? How do I ask questions? You can tweet us at LiveMuseRes. You can email at livingmusicresource@gmail.com, or there's that lovely chat feature right on YouTube. So start talking because my team is ready to send your questions up to me. Today, we are featuring the Amanda Johnston. She is a Canadian musician, collaborative pianist, diction specialist, and author. I get to say very proudly that I get to work with her, and we've collaborated on many projects. She is an associate professor of music at the University of Mississippi, where she is the music director, vocal coach for opera theater, teaches courses in advanced diction and collaborative piano. She coaches students at the undergraduate and graduate level. Off campus, there's more to this list. Off campus, she works at Music Theater Bavaria and Druid City Opera Workshop. And she is the author of an incredible book that is just something absolutely new. It is English and German Diction for Singers, a Comparative Approach. This book has been highly praised by many, many. And I'm going to point out one. The Journal of Singing says it is enlivening the study of diction. Also in 2012, she had her debut CD with MSR Classics in collaboration with Julia Morgan, mezzo-soprano. Let's give it up for Amanda Johnston. Woo! Thank you. What better way to kick off our season? Seriously, I mean, what credentials? So Amanda, how are you?
I'm terrific. I'm a little nervous, but not bad, not bad.
You know, most of the time you're collaborating with someone else. You're on the other side of that piano, so this is
absolutely a new experience for me. Exciting though.
Well, good. I just want you to know, so far, we've received questions from Mississippi, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Nevada, Texas, and Scotland. Wow. We are just like, boom! We are all over the map. Fantastic. So let's start with a question, okay?
Okay.
Claudia via email asks, in what time frame did you learn all the languages that you speak?
Well, I grew up in Canada, so I learned French and English pretty much at the same time. I came from an English-speaking family, but French is everywhere in Canada. It's hard to miss. You know, you go to the supermarket and it's on every food label. It's on every sign, on every street. And so I studied French from kindergarten all the way through grade 13. And didn't study German until university. I took one half course in university and then moved there. and lived in Germany for close to 7 years, and that's where I learned German. And while in Germany, I taught Germans to sing in French and Italian, and that's how I was introduced to the International Phonetic Alphabet. And I studied Italian with a native speaker in Germany with a sort of an exchange relationship that she taught me Italian and I taught her German.
Great.
So that's sort of how it came about, gradual process.
What you're talking about leads to a question we got from Megan on Facebook. She says, I'm getting a minor in Spanish, and IPA is extremely helpful at times, but my teachers have never mentioned anything about diction. Do you think foreign language teachers should also know and maybe teach some IPA in their classrooms in order to successfully teach their students that particular language?
I would say absolutely. I'm not sure why that is not part of language curriculum, but to me it goes hand in hand, especially if pronunciation is more of a focus. Unfortunately, in language courses that I've taken, pronunciation is usually the last thing that the instructor is able to focus on, usually due to time constraints, I think, more than anything else.
That makes sense.
I was introduced to IPA actually in elementary school.
Really?
In French. And IPA, of course, comes from France. And that was how my elementary school teacher taught us the vowels right from the very beginning. So I can remember learning, you know, as I was learning to print, that we were learning, they called it phonics.
Yeah.
And we learned the symbol for the closed D right away, and we went through lists of words that had the closed D, that had the spelling. So without really realizing what you were doing, you were honing in on those symbols. So that's sort of where I started when I was in Germany, because at least I had had that introduction to that, to convey to Germans with the sounds in French, that so many of them were in fact identical to their own language by using those symbols.
It's blowing my mind because in my undergraduate diction classes, we start with English, and it always comes so apparent, this need, and chime in, my people that are here, it comes up a lot in class. I wish we would have learned this when I was initially learning my language. Am I right? Yes! And now I have young children, and it's the same thing. They come home, and I just wish if we were talking about IPA, and not just, sometimes there are these strange phonetic symbols that come home. It would just be great if we did all adopt that International Phonetic Alphabet. It would make a big difference.
And even in young choirs, there's no reason that IPA can't be introduced early. I'm not sure why that is. I think that unifying vowels is a common worry, whether you're singing alone or in a group.
Right.
And I think at first, if a choir director is unsure of IPA or doesn't feel confident in doing a whole sentence in any language, that one could start with really just one vowel.
Yeah. And I mean,
or one diphthong.
And healthy speech, just for anybody,
Sure.
in understanding. So many times when we are working with students, it comes up, if you just do the right vowel, it's going to solve a multitude of problems, right? Nobody's heard that before, right? Let's shift. We have a question from Cody, who was posted on Facebook. Which do you enjoy more or find more challenging? Helping a student build a foundation for a language, or coaching someone who already has a basic knowledge? That might be tough. Depends on the student. No, I'm kidding.
I really think that that's tough to compare. The work I do with somebody who has no language background is completely different from someone who does. I think that no matter what level of singer I'm working with, from beginning student to professional, there's always work to be done with languages, and that motivates me. That regardless of the level, there's always another level to go to.
It's making me think of even our recent work
Absolutely.
together. We're working on a project together,
Right.
and songs in German, and I was having those aha moments as we were working together when finally articulating it correctly, wow, it just works. So it doesn't matter which stage you are in the development.
No, it's certainly not less challenging for me to work at the different levels. I enjoy the diversity in that, and I enjoy working long-term with someone over 4 years and experiencing those differences. And with young singers, what is often tied to diction study for me is their own study with their teacher on technique. So with a young singer, often I feel like my feedback isn't applicable yet, that sometimes it takes a couple of years for it to either sink in or for them to be able to realize what they're doing because their technique hasn't caught up yet.
They have to reach those milestones.
Right. Whereas with an older singer and an experienced professional singer even, the smallest amount of diction feedback can be implemented technically right away because their technique is solid. So I hear immediate results sometimes more often that way.
Interesting. I want to talk a little bit more specifically in the German arena here for a moment. We have a video question from Drake Dantzler at Oakland University, and he has a question for you about der. Okay, let's go to Drake.
Hello, Nancy, Mariah, and Amanda. My question is, should we say der or der? Thanks.
Great question.
Oh, I'm glad you think so.
Terrific question. Fantastic.
Okay.
The answer is both. That there are many, many words in both English and in German that have multiple means of pronunciation depending on context. I think context is a huge factor in any language, that we should be allowing things to change. We'll get to, I'm sure, the schwa later, but
yes,
that's a prime example. With a word like der, because it is an article, it's rarely stressed. Sometimes it can be at the end of a question, mit dir, and it has a slightly greater emphasis. But it needs to be pronounced according to its environment. The first option, der, the vowel is closed, it's long, but it finishes with the turned A, which is the vowel substitute for R. The second example, dir, begins exactly the same, closed E, long, but with a flipped R at the end. The choice as to when to use which depends on what follows that word. So if a word follows der that begins with a vowel, for example, der arme Mann, the poor man, we would choose the turned A. Der arme Mann versus der, flipping it. If we had der Mann, we would flip it because it's going into a consonant. So the rationale behind that is twofold, really. When you flip the R, it allows for the diction to stay at the front of the mouth, unimpeded from the vocal space. So der Mann, the R flips cleanly into the M. Both are voiced sounds. You stay on the breath. If you were to do der Mann, that could work too. There's nothing wrong with that, but there is a chance that the sound could fall slightly back.
True.
Which is a risk you might not want to take.
Right. I always talk about efficiency.
Absolutely. And the other version, when you have der Arme, if you do the turned A instead of the R, you remove the need for a strong glottal onset. Not that glottal onsets are negative at all. I think glottal onsets are integral to both English and German, but to find the balance of making a healthy glottal onset takes sometimes years.
Absolutely. And
to keep the breath going, der Arme is a good start at getting a healthy glottal. It sort of happens, the onset for Arme happens on its own without a conscious closing anywhere.
I like how you put that. And I should indicate that this is all written rather beautifully in your book, too, which we can follow up with. Let's go to another video question related to German diction. This one comes from a little team, Kelly and Deborah from Ohio University, with a question about the ich-laut. Let's go to them.
Hi, I'm Deborah.
And I'm Kelly, and we work at Ohio University in Athens.
Yes, so we have a question. We know the proper pronunciation for the ich-laut, but what has been your experience when a student has heard recordings of significant native German singers who pronounce the ich-laut as sh?
Yeah, do you have an explanation for them when you're doing your coachings, or do you just demand that they sing it the way you want them to sing it?
Like we do.
Right.
Their chuckle at the end is too funny.
Yes,
Okay.
these are great questions. These are things I think that come up in,
Yeah.
especially now with the prevalence of YouTube, that it's so easy to have access to all of these recordings. So this is a difficult one to answer. I think a quick answer would be that, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I feel this way, diction isn't absolute. You know, I like things that are very concrete, but diction, like any language, is in flux. There are trends to diction, just like there are trends to languages. So sometimes in listening to older singers versus newer singers, you encounter different trends in the diction. I wouldn't, to my knowledge, it was never a trend to pronounce the ich-laut like an ash.
Right.
Sometimes you will hear that recommended in a certain orchestral texture, in German opera versus German song, for means of projection, I think is the rationale behind that. But I really disagree that that is ever necessary. To me, if an ich-laut is properly pronounced, it has a built-in funnel almost, that the tongue creates a groove through which the air comes. And as long as it's connected, your ich-laut can be quite strong.
I agree. Do you, Catherine LeBoeuf, in her book, suggests for when you have an H to help articulate it, for it to project, to actually turn it into an ich-laut. Not across the board, this would be selective choices.
Absolutely.
But I find it to work brilliantly. And I agree with you that I think when the ich-laut is pronounced correctly, it just it enhances the vocal line.
Yeah, so for me that's a cop-out to relate it to the esh at all. I think sometimes in recordings, the position of the microphone even, somebody who lingers on an ich-laut, if it's, you know, can sound like an esh maybe when you're listening to it, but perhaps they're not making an esh at all.
Right.
You know, to me the ich-laut is always what I call a passing sound, similar to a passing vowel, that it's always in between two things that are of greater importance.
I like that.
That one shouldn't linger on it.
Right. Okay. I think you answered that.
I hope that I answered that.
You did. You did. Take note. Another video question related to German. This comes from Toronto.
All right.
Jessica from Toronto wants to know about German dialects. All right, let's go to Jessica.
Hello, my name is Jessica, and I'm also a Canadian from Toronto, Canada. I have a question, and my question is, when we sing in German, which German kind of like dialect should we use? The Austrian, the German, or the Swiss Germans?
Do tell.
Another great question. General answer to that is that we sing in Hochdeutsch, which translates to mean High German. Hochdeutsch is actually spoken in a very small region of Germany, namely in Niedersachsen, in the capital, which is Hannover. We say Hanover, but Hannover. There are few people in the world that really speak Hochdeutsch regularly, unless you're from that area. A good example of someone with Hochdeutsch is actually the model, Claudia Schiffer.
Really?
If you ever get a chance to hear her speak in her own language, it is the most pristine, beautiful thing. She does a lot of.
I'm going to get on YouTube. I'm going to look for it.
She does a lot of L'Oreal commercials. Speaking in German, the tagline is "Weil ich es mir wert bin," because I'm worth it. And
have you used it in your classes?
No,
Would be,
no.
Why not? Why not? Reel them in.
The exception to that would be if you were singing something specifically written in a dialect. So there are certain Mahler settings, for example, from Des Knaben Wunderhorns, where Austrian flavor is there. There are songs by Brahms written in Plattdeutsch from the north, and those kind of things. Sometimes in the spelling you can tell already that they're written in a dialect, and that's just as if you were to sing something on purpose with a southern dialect in English, something like from Susanna, Carlisle Floyd, something like that, where it's already built in.
Interesting. That's a key component. We're touching on many key components from your great book. Another thing of the book that I love is your curly-tailed J discussion, which I think I will go so far as to say, an aha moment for me. I mean, I had not heard it articulated that way, explained that way. Would you talk a little bit about it?
The existence of the curly-tailed jay.
And the production of the sound
Right,
and all of that.
right.
I think the way you describe it, I've not seen it written elsewhere that way.
Okay, great. This is a quintessential sound, I would say, in German. There are certain sounds that are inherent, I think, in every language, where you can say, oh, that's an Italian vowel, or that sounds French because of these combinations of sounds. And for me, along with the ich-laut, the ich-laut, the proper production of those phonemes is the curly-tailed j. And there are actually, other than my book, I think there's only one that uses the curly-tailed j, and that's the Gateway to German Diction by John Glenn Patton.
Okay.
He was the first person that I ever saw that recognized that as a different phoneme from the j-glide.
Exactly.
So that is the most common mistake, that people substitute the j-glide for the curly-tailed j. Huge difference. A glide, of course, is neither consonant nor vowel, is meant to act like a consonant, sound like a vowel. The curly-tailed j, by contrast, is the voiced version of the ich-laut. So the ich-laut actually has a cognate, which is kind of exciting. So you can
I get
work
excited
on,
about cognates
yeah,
too. Don't I, guys? I think that's why they're checking like.
Yeah, there's something satisfying about the curly-tailed j.
Yeah.
And in working on the curly-tailed j, you can work on your ich-laut at the same time.
Exactly.
So basically, to successfully produce the curly-tailed j, you just have to add voicing to the ich-laut and not let the ich-laut slip out of space. So if you start with an ich-laut, and you add the voicing, you're going to feel it in that little pocket where the alveolar ridge meets the teeth. So a word like Jäger, Jägermeister, every student knows that, right?
Yeah.
Jugend.
Not
That,
here. I don't know.
You know, another, sometimes if people are having trouble with the ich-laut, you could think of it as an exaggerated Y, like yes.
Yeah.
But it's a wonderful sound.
I love that. I love that. Let's go to another question about this one will be more about your book, but it's going to be a video question from Jeremy. Jeremy is at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, and he has a question about your book in general. Jeremy.
I'm Jeremy Godwin, and I'm from Anchorage, Alaska, and I'm studying at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, working on my master's in conducting and vocal pedagogy. My undergrad, however, was in theology, and as such I never had a diction course. Would you recommend your book, English and German Diction for Singers, as an adequate resource for self-study in German diction?
So what do you think?
Of
I mean,
course.
I think I know what you're going to say, but
Of course, I'm slightly biased here, but I did think about that when I wrote the book, that it could be used as an independent resource, because there are so many voice teachers out there that don't have the benefit of colleagues that are going the path alone and have to have so many hats in the vocal studio. You know, they often don't have the benefit of having a coach in their students' lives, so they have to teach them diction as well. And many singing teachers out there, or choral directors, graduated from schools where diction was not a focus. It's a relatively recent
we heard from a lot of people
phenomenon.
in that camp who were excited about today because they don't have the background and they want to know more, and you know, he addresses that.
So how I have it set up, if you have no previous knowledge of IPA in English or in German, there are 2 introductory chapters that go through each vowel and give many word examples. So that would be a starting point that you could definitely teach yourself, starting with the English to recognize, okay, well, these are the combinations in English, so when I transfer that over. And then certain vowels that have the same symbol and yet where the sound is different, for example, the upsilon. There's a much more detailed explanation for that later. The only thing that I would say is a bit of a roadblock in learning diction at all on your own is the oral component. So much of my instruction in diction has to do with hearing the sounds, and not just hearing them, but seeing the person make them. I think that is critical for my students to watch my mouth when I'm talking, to see my tongue move a certain way, to analyze those movements in their own body, and to have that quick feedback, I think, is invaluable, really. So that's why I did not include a CD with the original book. I had thought about having some audio samples, but I think to have those separate from the visual really doesn't do any good.
Can we let the cat out of the bag?
Absolutely. So I'm very pleased to announce that I am starting a video podcast series, and for this very reason, that will go with the book, whereby I can isolate all of the phonemes that could be misinterpreted or accented unnecessarily for exactly that kind of teacher that needs that, for someone in a diction classroom that can put on the podcast and can hear the difference between O and O right away, that can see my mouth as I do it. And
I think that's
so
exciting.
I'm very excited about that.
And then you also have?
I also have a workbook that will be published in 2016 that is going to go along with the revised edition of the book. So I think I can announce that too, that I'm working on a second edition of the book to expand some concepts. I've received a lot of feedback from people in Germany and in Scotland and in the States specifically. Things that they liked, things that they felt were still unclear. And that was really useful to me because, of course, I think it's all clear.
Right.
So to hear, you know, to hear that some things could be interpreted a different way has inspired me to expand upon certain things and give more examples. And while the book already has many exercises and answers in the back, I decided to do a separate workbook for things like this that will go hand in hand then with the video podcast where I read the answers aloud. So
Jeremy,
I'm excited about this. Yeah.
Jeremy, not only are you going to have the book, there's going to be another edition, there's going to be the podcast and the workbook, and the audience wanted to clap before. Let's clap now, because I think that's awesome. All right, so I think the biggest thing that you discuss in your book that is so exciting and inspired a music video made by us is the schwa. I really think it's one of your absolute pearls of wisdom in the book, how you beautifully address it. And Linda from West Virginia sent in an email. This just cracks me up a little bit. Loved watching the talented Ole Miss students doing a parody ad for this LMR interview. I would like to know if the author, Amanda Johnston, feels this is a musical version of Cliff Notes for her book. I think it is. I do. We talked about the turn day. We had all this. I mean,
Could be.
She helped write the lyrics, just for the record.
Yeah.
Nothing like putting you on the spot.
I would say there's much more in the book than there was covered in the video. I would see the book instead of a Cliff Notes, I would call it a teaser.
I like that.
Or a trailer.
So if you're trying to bring your choir around or you're trying to bring folks around, just show them all about the schwa. Yeah, and you were beautiful and it did great. I want to show footage of you. Last year, Amanda and I got together and just talked about a lot of subjects, and we're going to be putting up video clips on our website, Living Music Resource, of Amanda talking about various subjects, and this can be a teaser for the podcast.
Great.
This video is her talking about the schwa.
Why is it so hard to reproduce the schwa? Because the schwa is not truly a vowel. It's not a glide, it's not a consonant, you can't quantify it. Schwa, the term itself, comes from Hebrew, and it means nothing. It is that vague, that indiscriminate, which is one of the things I love about it, because it's constantly changing depending on its environment. It changes in English, but not to the point where we have several different symbols, or you're even aware of it. However, in German, I think of the schwa as a vocalic chameleon. It's a term I coined to represent that the schwa is in a constant state of flux. It's not a fixed sound, but rather is dependent on the preceding vowel.
I think you just state that so beautifully.
Thank you.
I really do. I
Thank you.
really do. Do you want to elaborate any more on the schwa right now?
I think the schwa is so integral to both languages. When you hear singers singing in English or in German and there's just something missing or something that makes them sound a little bit less than a native speaker.
Right.
And that can be even native speakers in their own language. This is the strangeness. To me, it's 9 times out of 10, it's the schwa that is at fault. And for Germans to realize what they're doing when they're pronouncing their schwa is also interesting to them. I don't think that they're taught that their schwa stays in the same position. It's innate to them. They do it without thinking about it. So when Germans work with other German, or rather non-native speakers, it's hard for them to convey what exactly is wrong with the schwa. And in my experience, many diction resources avoid discussing the schwa because it is so vague. And for me, it's key that it just cannot be ignored. In English, it has the same importance, but for different reasons. In German, it's often mispronounced. In English, it's not used enough. It has to do with the prevalence, the sheer occurrence of the schwa that makes English sound more idiomatic.
I mean, anybody, you learn your native tongue by imitation.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's just past you imitate what you hear, and it's not, how am I doing it? I'm just doing it. Definitely. We have a question from Katya via email. I've been using Johnston's book with students from a wide variety of linguistic backgrounds. Your comparative approach focuses on American English native speakers. Do you have any plans of writing other versions which might take into account speakers of other first languages? Now, we already let out of the bag these things coming. Are you addressing anything like that in the new edition?
Well, first of all, I would say that my book is catered to North American singers, not just Americans. And yes, I am going to use the video podcast for that. I don't anticipate having a special chapter in the book for that because there are so many
how would you choose?
mother languages that would have different issues. But certainly for Asian singers, there are certain sounds that are problematic, the L, the retroflex R. For Slavic singers, they have different difficulties, perhaps the eth or the theta in English, things like that. Even the difference between an ich-laut and the lowercase x, which is often also written improperly in transcriptions for German. That is a Dutch sound. That is velar versus uvular. And people that have a language that uses the lowercase x have difficulty doing the ich-laut instead. So I think really with every mother language, there's going to be some obstacle to overcome. That could be a book unto itself.
True.
So I hope to address that with a video podcast. I think that
will.
there are many opportunities to have special topics.
Yay. Well, I think we have a question in the audience. I'm hoping, yes. All right, we're going to take a question from the audience.
Hi, I'm Anna Greenlee, and I'm studying music education here at the University of Mississippi. And I am originally from Mississippi, so this has to do with my question a little bit. Do you find that Canadian singers have a cleaner slate than singers from the American South as far as picking up German diction correctly goes? Do you think it's more difficult for either one?
No.
... We don't like one-word answers.
No, I don't think there's any ideal language to have first. I think we all feel that way, that someone else has it easier, that if only,
the grass is always
if
greener.
only my dialect were cleaner, if only my dialect were this, it would be easier for me to do this or that. And it's not. You just have different challenges. Canadian English is more neutral than a Mississippi dialect, but it doesn't make it easier to acquire other languages.
I agree with that. I personally, and again, my students have heard me talk about this, I grew up in Pittsburgh. So a challenge for me has always been excessive glottals.
Right.
I mean, it just has to do with the dialect of that area. So I'm very always, I don't even like the word glottal stop. You know, it just sort of makes me twitch. Because I was one of those people that took years
Right.
to learn how to do it correctly.
Right.
And I want to, when I came here, I love the addition of diphthongs and triphthongs to single vowels, because I think the Southern dialect, I mean, there's so many different Southern dialects.
True.
But the true Scarlett O'Hara Southern dialect, it's so lyrical. I mean, there's so many vowels. What more could you possibly ask for? Me coming from Pittsburgh, stop, 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 constant, constant. I was like, wow, it's beautiful. So I agree that I think each area has its pluses and its minuses.
I will say it's been a bit of a challenge. I've had to adjust a lot of my means of explaining sounds since I moved down here. That I think in Canada it's easier for me to use word association for different sounds, whereas down here I can generalize. It doesn't work as well if I only have one vowel to someone's triphthong for the same word.
Right.
You know, that isn't necessarily immediately apparent.
Right.
So that for me has been really fun to try and find another way to explain things
I love
that's
that.
going to resonate.
Let's shift a bit, another direction. Heather from Facebook wants to know, who has been your favorite artist to collaborate with? She's going to say me. No, kidding.
I'm going to avoid that question a little bit, and I'll I could comment on
How about an experience? I
my
mean,
favorite collaborator that I've worked with, perhaps as a pianist. That might. I've had the privilege of working with many vocal collaborative pianists over the years, and I've been really inspired by Malcolm Martineau and Rudolf Janssen. I've spent a fair bit of time with both of them, and they for me are sort of the ideal people right now on the scene, and have been for years, that really are so committed to working with singers and all that entails. So that for me has been life-changing, working with them and their intensity and interest in language and all the aspects that are so entwined in working with singers. It's such a different experience compared to playing for instrumentalists. So I would say that.
Neat.
You know, to name my favorite collaborator would be offensive to 99% of all the people I work with, because really
very political.
I have very few negative experiences.
Well,
It's different every time.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the draw to what we do.
Absolutely.
You know, the creation in the moment. Great. Dale from Facebook wants to know, we all have times when we are proud of ourselves for things we've worked so hard for, or things we've accomplished. Can you think of a time when you've either been proud of yourself or proud of a student that makes you know your hard work is not in vain?
I would say I never really feel that my work is in vain, even if in the moment it doesn't seem like it's sinking in with someone I'm working with. I never question that it will sink in. And I feel proud of my students almost on a daily basis. It's really true. Everybody has a different journey and a different background, and that's part of what I love about teaching, that I can be part of that on a daily basis. So
You're getting a little choked up, I think.
It would
she
be hard
beat me to it. I'm known for getting choked up. I love it.
It would be hard to isolate an event.
The dedication in the front of your book is to all of your students.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful dedication in the front. I think it's very telling about you, which I think is very nice. Shalene via email wants to know, are there any common myths about lyric diction that you'd like to address? Myths.
Many. I think a big myth is that consonants impede legato.
Actually, we had someone tweet something about this. Wait a second. Go ahead.
That somehow English and German are less legato than a Romance language. I completely disagree with that. Legato is not vowels into vowels. It's the combination of consonants and vowels executed on a constant stream of air. And I think that so much time is spent on vowel production that consonants are often neglected. And through the efficient production of consonants, that you can have that legato line. So that for me comes up a lot, that people think of English or German as being the opposite of legato, that I have to convince people otherwise, that aspirated consonants are somehow negative.
Right.
That in aspirating a T or a K, that is hampering legato, or that is somehow using air with which you are singing. That I think is a big myth, that you run out of air if you aspirate your T, when in fact it relaxes the mechanism by aspirating a T. It uses residual air, much like an ich-laut, the air with which you're speaking, that you're not inhaling specifically to speak, right?
No, I believe that wholeheartedly. I in my own personal teaching and pedagogical approach, yes, we spend most of our time vocalizing on vowels, but oftentimes so many singers end up with tension in that position of the vowel, and choosing those right consonants to work to help release wherever that tension's coming to play works so well. And then I think also then that bridge from the vocalizing into the song is just much more seamless, as opposed to hands off. We don't want them there.
I'm a big fan of tongue twisters
Oh,
in
I love
all
yours in the book,
languages.
yeah.
Not for the traditional use in being able to say something really fast without stumbling, but rather to match the sounds. And I think tongue twisters can be based on a single consonant and are especially useful for singers to make sure that when you're making that T, it's exploded in the exact way, that the articulator is meeting the point of articulation in the exact same spot with the exact same amount of the tongue. Those kind of things take a lot of concentration, and they can be intoned, they can be sung as well. And it's equally useful for vowels. This can be done in choirs to introduce IPA, that you match the same vowel in one sentence. It seems like that would be simple, but it's actually not.
This suggestion, actually, we got a video question from Joelle from here in Mississippi. I actually want to go to it. Something of what you just said sort of addresses what she could possibly do with her group. Let's go to the video of Joelle.
Hello, my name is Joelle Norris. I live in Senatobia, Mississippi, and I'm one of the directors for Coro Rio, which is a children's community and youth choir in the DeSoto County area. And my question is, what resources would you recommend for choir directors who may not have had an opportunity to take a diction class in college in their undergraduate studies? If they're interested in furthering their knowledge of diction and how to teach it to their students, are there specific resources that you would recommend for them?
Well, of course, we recommend your book yet again. And I recommend showing them the Schwa video. And I recommend tuning in for the podcasts. But beyond that, I'm just thinking, I mean...
I think tongue twisters would be perfect. I think that depending on the age of the students, I used to, when I worked with young groups, use old-fashioned note cards, much like you do when you're teaching little kids how to read music, with just one phonetic symbol on it, you know, and going through the text and finding that symbol, finding the vowel. It can be a game, it can be playful.
Right.
And then speaking the text, not IPAing the whole thing so it's overwhelming, but just keeping an eye out, when does that vowel repeat? Am I saying it exactly the same way? Similar to what I said, I think, to the other video, you can definitely use the beginning chapters of the book and start there. Right. I mean, IPA, I think, can be overwhelming at first, but you have to start somewhere. And once you learn one language, it's much easier to see the relationships to all of the others and see the sounds that may have the same symbol but are slightly tweaked and hybrids of other vowels, and that's where it gets really interesting.
Right. We don't have to, I just want to share something that did come in on Twitter. At the Ash says, in terms of consonants, when is too much in your opinion? But we already sort of handled that, but I think it was funny that it was coming in about consonant sounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think consonants can be too much if they don't match the meaning of the word. I hear that a lot, that people are endeavoring to give a strong final consonant after a peaceful word, or within a peaceful moment, that there's a T for the sake of the T being there. I think similar to what we were talking about with the schwa matching. I think the consonant has to match whatever you're conveying, that there's so many ways of making a T.
Yeah. All right, so too much can be too much, but it's more how you're doing it.
Yes.
All right. If your questions were not answered, because we got so many, Amanda has very graciously agreed to let me video her answers, and we're going to put those up on the site. So anything that you all sent in will be addressed in one form or another. They will be posted at livingmusicresource.com. We always do something fun during one of our beats. We've got to keep it lighthearted, right, folks? So we are going to play a game. Heather, my intern, came up with the name of the game. This is going to be Schwa Olympics. And we are going to we're going to do a little game. So could my contestants come up, and we're going to bring Claudia up here, and we're going to explain what we are indeed doing. Microphone. Thank you. All right. So this is our Schwa Olympics, and we're going to have the United States versus Canada. We need our team captain up front here. Miss Johnson, Amanda. I keep calling her Miss Johnston because at work it's always Miss Johnson. It's going to be these two teams. So we have Claudia, we have Melanie, and we have Zane, United States. Canada, we have Hillary, Amanda, and Ashley. All right, they're going head to head. So here's what's going to happen. They're each going to come up and draw a card, and on the card is a word. They are going to say the word backwards into the phone app. Then we are going to play it frontwards, and we're going to see who does the best job. And we have 3 judges. We have Cody, Lacey, and Keishan, who is going to rank what they're doing. And we are going to have Carly tallying over here, and we're going to see who wins this battle of Schwa Olympics. Who knows? It may be entered into some, I don't know, who knows? All right, so first up we have Amanda. Draw your card, please. Okay, you ready? It doesn't have to be perfect. We're not. All right, into the phone.
Nut kid.
Let's see if I push the buttons correctly. Oh my goodness. I am so cold. It is cold in here. Any idea? Let me play it again. Let me play it again. Anyone have an idea? Claudia might be able to get it. Cricket, cricket, no guess, no guess. Go ahead. Diction, that was it. Did you see the card? Yeah. Oh. Confession. All right, pretty good. Give her a score, give her a score. All right, they're holding up scores. Carly will, oh. All right, oh. All right, next up we will have Claudia. Claudia, let's see what we got here. Now we're gonna have you speak into the microphone. And I should say, this was Claudia's suggestion for a game, and I thought it was brilliant because Amanda is a wordsmith, and we had to do something dealing with words and speech. All right, you ready?
Sure. Kizum.
Be thinking. See if you can figure out what it is. See if you can figure out. Okay, here we go.
Music.
That was so good! Wasn't that good? I mean, I know what the... Woo! She got 1. Give me 5, Claudia. All right, I'm showing favoritism, though. I'm showing favoritism to my homeland. I can't do that. All right, Hillary. Okay, sorry. Set this up. Okay, we'll get rid of that one. Pick another card. All right, give you a couple seconds.
Take your time, Hillary.
Oh. All right, you ready?
Nalispe.
Said with confidence.
Epsilon.
What was it? Say it, everybody.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Did you guys hold up numbers there? My mind is blown. My mind is blown. That was so good.
All right.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Okay, have we done? Wait, we did that one. Okay. Goodness gracious. All right, you ready, Melanie?
Yes. Okay.
Let's see here.
That's how I felt.
Oh my. Okay.
Okay.
Give me 1 sec. All right.
Okay.
Sleigh bear. Rebels.
I got it. It sounded a little like a German accent, but who got it? Who got it? Rebels. Very good, Melanie. Love it. All right, what do we give her? Oh, it's like we have like Dancing with the Stars component here, holding up the stuff. Okay, come on up, Ashley.
All right, Ashley, you got this.
Okay, draw your card. Draw your card. Now there are people who can do like whole sentences backwards. I think your brain has to be wired a certain way. You ready?
Okay. Adanaka.
I don't know why. I'm glad I'm not the only one that's humored so immensely. I have no idea, and I wrote the word. 1 sec. Here we go. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. All right, everyone listen. Okay. Pretend there's not a before it. You know. Canada! Very good. Very good. All right, last but certainly not least, Mr. Zane.
Oh, vote.
Oh, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. Score. I cannot cheat one side here. Okay.
Tough judge there on the left.
Okay. Tough judge. There always has to be one. Yeah. He's the, who is the guy? You're the Russian judge. Oh, him. Sorry, I'm pointing the wrong way. All right, all right, you okay, Zane?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait 1 sec, I have to push the microphone again. See, diction can be fun. I think we should have IPA'd these at the same time. Okay. Here we go.
Turbich.
Okay, let's listen very closely. You guys got it! Woohoo! Let's listen one more time. I love it.
Oh, oh.
Oh, did you get those scores? That one was running the gamut. We had a 1, a 2, and a 3. Okay, we're going to give Carly a second to tally here. And while she's tallying, come up, my 3 judges, real quick. Let's see the 3 judges. Come up real quick so we can see who is doing the judging. Woohoo! Members of my diction class. You have to be on the carpet to be seen. You have to be on the carpet to be seen. All right, what do we think, Carly?
Y'all are both so wonderful that it was actually a tie. But we have to give Miss Johnston the prize. We have to give her.
It was really a tie?
It was really a tie.
We should have a tiebreaker. We got a tiebreaker. We got a tiebreaker. I'm not okay. I'm not into giving everybody a medal or everybody a trophy. I'm not. I am not one of those.
I nominate.
There is
Hillary.
a clear winner.
I nominate
All right.
Hillary from Team Canada.
All right, Hillary's going up, and
Team
I need a
Canada.
pen. I need a pen. Okay, here we go. Who's going from the other side?
Tiebreaker.
Okay. It's all right. I'm just going to do some. I'm going to do real quick. Okay, don't peek. Because you got to look, oh, chilly. And, okay, this is off the cuff. This is off the cuff. All right, Claudia, you're up first. Take a peek at your word. And are my judges ready?
Yep.
All right, well, they're going to be on camera this time as they give their, there's no hiding now behind those cards, folks. All right.
Flow. Wolf.
Wolf. That was it? Did you get that, or you thought it was wolf? Oh, you got it. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
What was the word?
I meant it to be Wolf, but it's fine. She will. 2. All right. And now Hillary.
Okay.
You ready?
No.
Okay.
Tninksa.
There's tension in the air.
Haskin.
Let me play accent. It was accent. All right, judges. We have a winner. We have a winner. We have a winner. So, here we go. Awesome, Carly. All right, and now we have to sing, "Oh, Canada." All right. And I shall keep singing, keep singing.
All right. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Where's my third? Let's give them a hand. Woo!
Great job.
You guys can go have a seat. Go have a seat. Here you go, Claudia. All right. So, just to wrap things up a wee little bit, first of all, I want to thank this amazing lady for being here today, but more importantly, for her contribution to the musical world and to all you're doing, both with your students and just with your profile as a musician and a pedagogue.
Thank you so much.
It's an honor to work with you.
Thank you.
In 1 year, the Beat has grown. We will this year be expanding what we're offering. We will be offering 3 additional live stream interviews, plus 2 public master classes and a concert. These will include Broadway composer Andrew Lippa. We're bringing back William Bolcom and Joan Morris. And on November 21st, mark your calendars now, we will interview Ole Miss alum Mary Donnelly Haskell, singer, stage, and TV actress, and Mary Lane Haskell, New York singer, actor, dancer. And we're going to focus on finding your path, life after college. What do I do? We're going to talk about all of the options and how you forge forward today. How are you going to know about what's going on? Join LMR, livingmusicresource.com. It's free. Stay up to date. Check out the things we're doing. I want to thank various people. I already thanked numero uno here. I want to thank our technical director, Charlie Miles, for his wonderful work. I want to thank my LMR intern, Heather Higginbotham. Come on up. None of this would happen without her. She has great ideas. She's extremely intelligent. She's a wonderful young lady. I want to thank her. I want to thank my Beat team, Claudia Salcedo, Megan Brock, Shalene Sugar, Carly Reeder, Rachel Dennis, and Katie McLaughlin. Come on up, ladies. Again, as Ms. Johnson, I'm so used to saying Ms. Johnson with students. As Amanda said, you know, it's such a joy working with such bright young people who bring incredible things to the plate and make you a better teacher and make you a better person. Thank you, ladies. I really am appreciative. Who else do I want to thank? I want to thank the University of Mississippi. Great place. I want to thank the Ford Center. Thanks for letting us be in here. And I want to thank Sneed's Ace Hardware in Oxford. Who would have thought they'd be sponsoring Diction? But they did. And I want to thank them for their contribution. Big news, big moment for me right now. I get to feel like the Oprah Winfrey because we are about to give everybody in the audience a free gift. This is huge. I've always wanted to do this. So everybody in the audience is getting a copy of the CD I referenced at the beginning. It is Amanda Johnson and Julia Morgan. Everybody gets a copy, and those who sent in questions get a copy too. Let's give them away. Go, go, go. And I just want to say, see you November 21st. The research revolution continues.